Good morning, everyone. This is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of That Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials on Facebook. We're doing a video today that's not actually live. It's just going straight to our YouTube channel to answer a question that several people have asked this morning about how to work around objects that might be in your mockup photo. Now, one of the goals of mockups is that they want to look as realistic as possible, and we know that things like a boot object being laid in the wrong location can definitely hinder that. And then, of course, there are things such as maybe long sleeve shirts being folded a certain way, or drawstrings or buttons or zippers that naturally are part of a garment, all of which can impact where your design will exist or not exist on the finished product. Your mockup should look just like the finished product, so it's very important that we know how to work around this. So what I'm going to be showing you today is how to create a field of selective visibility or invisibility when you're creating mockups in Affinity Designer. If you are looking for an introduction to Affinity Designer, that link is in the video description, as well as the link to how to create mockups. So we're not going to be covering all of that stuff today. I'm just going to jump right in to show you this very quick and easy technique for whether you're creating visibility or invisibility. So just to clarify for anyone who's not quite sure what we're talking about, I just mentioned that the boots here are obviously overlapping the design. And we had to make this happen because our design, when we lay it here, is going to be on top of our boot. We've done this by creating this invisible layer right here. So we've created a selective field of invisibility that's overlapping our design. Now, if we were creating a selective field of visibility, I'm just gonna get rid of that mock-up. And that's what we have here. So here we've created a selective field of visibility in our waffle towel for the towel that is underneath the main one that you can see the full design. Because this is a mock-up, we want to make sure that this shows two towels printed. The space that's shown, that's visible of the bottom towel would be able to you would be able to see the design. So it's important that we print it there just for continuity purposes, for the purpose of it looking real, for the purpose of making sure that what you show online is exactly what your customers are getting in person. So let me show you how to accommodate these different props or things like drawstrings and buttons and zippers that might be in your mock-up photos. If you're like me, you buy a lot of mock-up photos. This particular waffle towel one is just one that I took, so it's not super professional, but it works. So let's start with the one that I did just show you with the boots. So I've already kind of imported some stuff here to make this easy for us. I'm going to start by bringing over this design, which happens to be below our mock-up. So there we go. So the first thing I want to do is kind of resize my design to where it would be and make sure I put it in the appropriate placement. So I'm going to do this very quickly. I noticed that this picture, the shirt is angled a little bit, so I do want to make sure my design is angled a little bit again to give it the most realistic look possible. And as you can see, my design, due to the size and dimensions, is overlapping the boot. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in over there, and we're going to create that field of invisibility. To do this, all we need is our pen tool. So we'll select our pen tool, and we're going to go ahead and create an outline around this boot. This is the fastest and easiest way to do something like this, and it's the best way to create a permanent space of invisibility that you can just swap out your graphics in, and I'll show you that also. So I'm just going to click. Basically, with the pen tool, you just kind of click wherever you're seeing a curve that you're going to have to work around in terms of adjusting your line. And then you always want to make sure you close your curve by going back to that original point. So I'll zoom in a little bit more so you guys can hopefully see better. And then I'm going to click on my node tool. Now with this, I'm going to just adjust my lines. So our first line doesn't really need a lot of adjustment, but we can just kind of move it up a little bit. And you can adjust your lines by simply clicking on the line and dragging it, which is how I prefer to do the core adjustments. But then if I need to refine it just a little bit, you can click on your node and you'll see these additional nodes with handles that come up, and you can adjust your lines however necessary as well. For something like a simple curve like this, it's not very necessary. So we will just continue on, but I did just want to show that to you very quickly. All right. So we've created our curve around our boot. We've made sure that we've got right around that edge right there. That's like the sole of the boot has that little lip that is rounded up around the corner of the boot, and then we've got our rounding. So we've got our boot covered. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to click back on our move tool. We want to apply a fill. It can be any color you want. White is fine. And then it just needs to have a fill in order for the erase feature to work. Sorry, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit for you guys. All right. We want to make sure that this is on top of our design. So we're going to drag that in our layers panel over top of our design. And then we're going to select the erase option from our drop-down menu in our layers panel. Now you see that this is erasing completely out of everything. It's going to erase everything that's in the layers panel unless you group it with a specific object you want to create that field of invisibility for. So in this case, that's our design. So what we'll do is we'll select the design and the curve, and we will right click and hit group. And just like that, our design looks like it is behind the boots. It's such a simple task to do. Now you can we can save this file like this. So anytime we want to use this mockup, all you have to do is change the design. And you do that by clicking the down arrow on your group right here and selecting the design, not the curve, not the group, selecting the design. You'll see this option to replace image appear. And then if we just go and grab another design, replacing the image will put it in the same spot and roughly the same dimensions. You might need to make some adjustments. Like this design's very big. So if I was printing this, I would probably make it a little bit smaller just because of the dimensions, but you can move it, and all along that boot is going to keep it covered up where the boot is. So you've created a permanent field of selective invisibility that you can easily swap out your designs on, stress-free, every time, not have to redo it. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this out of here so I can show you now how to create a field of selective visibility, which is really the same process with just one little difference in a detail. So let me go ahead and take that out of here. I'm going to bring my waffle towel design on, or my waffle towel mockup onto the screen. And then I did just bring this hot dog design over. Okay. So similar to what we just did, we want to go ahead and lay our design where it would appear on this bottom towel. So I'm just going to right click and duplicate to do that. I'll shift it over, and just so it's easier for you guys to see, I'm going to uncheck that one. So we can see that this towel, bottom towel, is laid at a different angle than the towel on top. So we want to make sure we adjust our design to match that. And then we know that the design is going to be in right about this zone before it'll start. So we can adjust this accordingly for that as well. Again, we're just trying to create a realistic representation for the customers. If you plant your designs a little higher, then you might want to move it up like this. It's really all about what you do and how you print your designs. But this is just how you would create the field of visibility. So now we want this to go behind this towel. We can do exactly what we just did, which was create that invisibility field here and over the handle. But I find that with something like this, it's actually easier to, where you need to fit it into such a small space that's very specific, it's easier to create a curve that you use strictly for visibility. And then it's also less things you have to worry about in your layers panel. So we're going to do that using the same technique as we did before. We're going to click our pen tool. We're going to go around our mug handle, taking consideration for all of the curves that are in this. We're going to go down wherever is necessary in our mock-up. We'll line up with where the towels are overlapping. And this is actually pretty straight, which makes this a little bit easier. And you can see this picture was taken in the sunshine. Typically, if you're getting a professionally done mock-up picture, it's taken with good lighting and there are no shadows. But since I took this one and I am not a professional photographer, you can see very faintly where the sun is hitting this edge of the towel. So we're just going to line right up with that. And again, always make sure we close our curve. We'll click on this pen tool, the node tool, to make those line adjustments again. We don't really have to make any on this long end, so that's good. So now, instead of setting this to erase, because there's a few things we want to happen here. One, I want to still get that shadow that's around the mug. And two, I'm trying to put this design behind a mug and another towel. So the field of selective visibility works so much better for this, because otherwise we would have to create a curve here to erase, a curve here to erase. We'd have to make sure that we didn't move them or lose them in our layers panel. So this just makes it a little bit easier. So you're going to select that design in your layers panel, and you're going to embed it into that curve. And you do this by clicking on it and dragging it so that it's underneath the name. You want your cursor to be under the name, not under the icon, not over the icon, not next to the icon, underneath the name. And you can see, if you watch the screen, the workspace, you can see that it actually does show you what happens if you move it in different areas. So we want it inside of the curve, so we drag it right up underneath the name, and it creates an automatic grouping where it is embedded inside. And then we can right check our other design, move it up a little bit. And just like that, oops, that was a little too far. And just like that, you've created a realistic looking mock-up. And once again, if you needed to change out these designs, you would just click on that one within the curve, click that drop-down arrow, select your design, click replace image, and choose another graphic. It automatically fits right in there, makes it really quick and easy to do a bunch of different mock-ups, especially if you're doing a whole bunch of towels at once or you're doing a whole bunch of shirts at once. This just makes everything so much easier for you. And that's it. As you can see, creating a field of selective visibility or invisibility in Affinity Designer when you're creating your mockups is very easy to do. It just requires a few minutes. So I hope this answered the question that a lot of people seem to have this morning about working around everything from props that are in a mockup photo to things like drawstring zippers and buttons, folded shirt pockets, all those things. So if you guys have questions, be sure to post them to Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials, where we focus on Affinity Designer for the print industry and can provide you with the most help. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.